Hi everyone and welcome to today's Sheffield Museum's live virtual tour. We are at the lovely Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet. We are going to be taking a tour with Joshua Tyzack, who is going to be showing us the scythe making process from start to finish. And this is all part of our celebrations for Abbeydale at 50, celebrating more than 50 years of Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet being a public museum. Now, I hope you enjoy the tour, and if you do, please do feel free to pop a comment in the Facebook comments box below, or also make any donations. You can donate at museums-sheffield.org.uk/donate, and we are very grateful for any donations we receive. So, without further ado, if we are all good to go, let's kick off this tour.
Good day to you. Welcome to the Abbeydale Works. My name's Joshua Tyzack. My brother's the manager here. Now you might be wondering what I'm doing holding this contraption. Well, as I'm sure you know, this is a scythe. It's used by farm workers and groundskeepers alike across the country and across the empire. And we make these here. This is one of the cheaper riveted scythes, but later on I'll show you how we make a crown scythe. Now this here is the lake or dam, which is our power supply. I'll show you later on some of the machines that the water from this dam powers. But for now, why don't you follow me? I grew up in Sheffield, near Bent's Green, Trap Lane. You might have heard of Thomas Bolsover. Well, he's long dead and gone, but his works in the Porter Valley is still there. Learned a thing or two there, I can tell you. And later on, when my old dad was still alive, my old father, we worked at Worlow. And we've just sold up at Rockingham Street, and now this is our main base of operations here in Little London Road. And my brother's house over there. And here we've got, if there's not enough water in that little building there, there's a steam engine, horizontal steam engine, little beauty. Costs a fortune to keep it running, mind you, in coke, so we try and use water power when we can. Now, if you follow me down here, can you hear the water? Well, at the moment it's not making anything turn. It goes into the wooden box, the pen trough on the top there. And when the lever's pulled, it makes this big water wheel turn. Only one of 4 water wheels we've got here. Each one does a different job. I'll tell you more about those later. But for now, we're going to find out how we make the metal in order to make our famous crown scythes. As we go through, you'll see the courtyard. Plenty of leftover grindstones here for all different purposes. The small ones for knives, big ones for scythes. Got a few warehouses here as well. Troughs for the horses, and also for the brooms, because when you're working in a furnace you get awfully hot and you need splashing with water to cool you down. Now these might look like cannons to you. You might think Mr. Walker from Rotherham has been here with his military equipment, but it's not true at all. These are actually made from clay, and because they've been used for making steel, they're coated with the leftover ingredients like that. And these are called crucible pots. Now if you follow me up the stairs, we'll go and see what happens to these crucible pots. Well, they're going to be lowered into these furnaces here. We've got 5 furnaces all together, and they're lowered with the use of these long tongs here. And we'll come back here in a minute, but first of all I want to show you how the pots are made. And to do that we have to go down into the cellar, so watch your head. Here we are. So you might have heard of cellar lads. There are some very big names in Sheffield started off as cellar lads, so there's no shame in it. So a cellar lad is somebody who has to do every odd job that everybody else can think of. One of the jobs is to clear out all the ashes from the furnaces when it's done burning. You can imagine though that full of coke, which is like baked coal that burns hotter than wood and cleaner than coal. There's some bars at the top here. That's what 2 crucible pots are going to rest on, put in from above by a chap called a puller out. There's a big bloke with massive muscles. So all these burning away, and let's see what the pot maker's been doing meanwhile. This area here, if you can imagine it, full of clay. It's a mixture of clay from local clay pits in places like Ecclesall Woods, and also from Cornwall. They have a lot of dealings between Sheffield and Cornwall, the white metal trades and all. So we've got China clay, which is mixed in with local clay. How's that done? With bare feet. And a lot of treading and mixing up. And when the potman's happy that it's all mixed up, he'll grab a load of it, make sure it's the right weight, and then put it into this here mould. Now this is being greased a bit like a cake tin with pig fat. Looks a bit disgusting. And right down in the bottom of it, the bottom of that mould can come out, you see. You'll see why in a bit. So imagine that's full of clay. I'm going to get this piece that goes down the middle and then hit it with a great big hammer called a maul. Bash. So you need to have some muscles on you to work in this job. Mind you, our potman's quite wiry, you know. And then when that's done, take the middle part out and then lower the mould onto this post here. That's going to push up the bottom and push up the pot. That's a freshly made pot. Potter stands it on the table, then uses this collar to shape the top part. Meanwhile, cellar lad, he doesn't get off scot-free. He gets called out from his other job, and he can have a go at making some of the lids. He just pops some clay in there, smooth it out, and then the lids actually get smaller once they've been heated up, you see. So that's a lid after it's been heated up, and it was that size before. Right then, so all these shelves around here for putting these green pots on so they can dry out. The next stage, they're all going back upstairs again. And watch your head. Do you remember I was talking about that big burly bloke earlier called the puller out? Well, these are the tongs he uses, and once the pots have been heated up and fired, they're ready to have a charge put in them, and that means the stuff what's going to be melted to make top quality crucible steel. And the puller out can tell just by looking at the colour when it's ready to pull out. Now this charge, this is a top secret mixture. I can tell you it's got scrap metal in it and limestone, would you believe, and, don't tell nobody this, broken glass. That's what makes it springy. You might have heard of a chap called Benjamin Huntsman that lived a while ago. Well, he invented this kind of steel, crucible steel, but we've got our own special twist on the recipe, and we keep it to ourselves. We don't just go telling every Tom, Dick and Harry. Anyway, if you'd like to follow me up here. This is the charge room, where head melter mixes up different ingredients and makes up a charge. Which goes in here. And then that gets carried down the steps once again. So just watch your footing as you follow me back down. Now you might remember me mentioning the big burly bloke called the puller out. Well, he's been watching the crucible pots in the furnace, and then when they're ready they're going to have a charge put in them from upstairs. Now that's done with the use of a big funnel there, and once the charge is put in, 2 crucible pots in each of these furnaces, then the lid's closed and it's left for a few hours. Now because the lid's closed, the hot air can't come through here, and it's got to go all the way up the chimney. And the taller the chimney, the more the air has to rush, because the air's warm, so it rises and pulls in cold air. There's quite a draft downstairs sometimes, and the taller the chimney, the hotter the flame. And so once it's had a good long time to cook away, the puller out can tell just by looking at the colour that it's ready. It wants to be a nice cherry red colour. And then he uses these pulling out tongs to lift the crucible pot out, ready for his mate. Now his mate is called a teamer, and his job is to use these tongs, these teaming tongs, which are a different shape at the end. They're for grabbing. He's going to grab the side of the pot. You might have heard the expression teaming it down, or teaming and ladling. So teaming's another word for pouring, really. Where's he going to pour it? Well, he's going to pour it into this mould here. This is a mould that's made from 2 halves that are held together with that ring there. And then you might notice a bit of clay in the middle. That's called a dozzle. And it was a little bit bigger than that before. But as you pour in the steel, the good steel settles to the bottom, and the poor quality stuff settles in the dozzle. And once it's hardened a bit, that bit gets knocked off with a hammer. And then when the steel bar's gone solid, there we are. It turns into a bar of crucible steel. Now that goes up the road to Totley Rise, where we've got our rolling mill, and that gets squashed so it's flatter and longer. And then gets brought back to the tilt hammers, which are this way. All over the site you'll notice there are grindstones, old grindstones that have got used up. These are called cokes, and they can be used by the building industry, or sometimes folks in Sheffield, they put them by the fires for cooking on. They call them grindle cokes then. So they're still quite valuable even when they've been finished with for grinding. So here we have the mighty hammers of the tilt forge. Now you remember I said that the crucible steel is going to come back as a long bar. Well, that bar needs to get heated up before you can do anything with it. Here we've got a furnace which has an air supply, and we've got one wheel which has the job of pumping air to this furnace. It follows a pipe, the wheel through the other side of the wall there, makes this shaft turn. It's got this funny shaped wheel on it, we call it a cam. And that cam makes this shaft here go up and down as it turns. There are 2 of them working against each other, and they drive those bellows up there. and the air goes along the pipe to the furnace. And we've got another cam over here, a simpler cam. So a cam is a kind of a wobbly wheel, if you like. And the cam over here makes this big lever here operate the shears, because you're going to want to chop this long piece of metal into two pieces at some stage. Now, we make two sorts of scythes here, and the better quality ones are called the crown scythes, and they consist of a piece of crucible steel in the middle, which is nice and sharp and good quality, and two pieces of cheaper iron on either side. And they're put together like a sandwich using this plating hammer, which hits several times a second. And the hammerman's job is to make sure that all happens properly. Of course, he's going to keep needing to send it back to the heater lad to heat up in the furnace again. This is called a tilt hammer because it's made to tilt upwards by the teeth on that wheel behind, and then it drops under its own weight. That wheel there is made to turn by this great big gear wheel here. Each one of those teeth has to be individually made by the wheelwright. A very skilled job. And that wheel in turn is made to turn by one of the water wheels, powered by falling water. Now this other chair here, this is where the forge master sits. You might have heard that word before, forge master. So he's one of the highest paid, most senior members of our staff. And he's very good at shaping the basic shape of the scythes on this slightly different hammer here. It goes a bit slower than the plating hammer, and then it gets sent over to the blacksmiths to finish off. So there we are. That's the tilt forge. Now if you follow me across the way, there's one more process that needs doing, and this is maybe the most famous job in the whole of Sheffield, and one of the most dangerous as well. We've seen a lot of grindstones, but we've not seen where the grindstones are used yet, and that is called the grinding hull. Again, mostly powered by water, but if there's a bad winter and the dam's frozen up, or if it's a hot summer and there's not much water, then we use the steam engine in this building here. Cost of the fortune. So we employ several grinders in this building, and some of them belong to the union and some don't. Now, strictly speaking, it's illegal to be part of a trade union, but I don't care. As long as a worker's a good worker, we'll employ him. The trouble is I've got in a bit of bother for that, because some of the union men think I should employ only union workers, and well, let's just say a few months ago I was coming back from Sheffield, Sheffield town, along the cart track. Somebody shot a hole in my old hat. Had to buy a new hat. So I think they were after me. Maybe some young lad had been talked to by these unions and decided to take it into their own hands. And then Mr. Dyson, who was a tenant at Abbeydale Works before us Tyzacks, he came in one morning and this whole building had its roof blown off. We call it the Sheffield outrages. Very serious, you know, it's bad for business. I don't know what's going to be done about it. I'll need to sort it out soon enough though. The big bother at Drumfield as well. There's works that were damaged there. Anyway. So here we've got a big grindstone. Now they start off as great big 6-footers, and over the course of its life this grindstone gets worn down and worn down, and the grinder is going to sit on top of it, pressing down with all his weight. There we go, working upside down. And the grind wheel rotates this way, you'd be surprised to know. And then this here is to protect your chest if you accidentally let go. Of called a robin redbreast, protects your chest. It's a Yorkshire rhyming slang there. And you're not just sharpening the blade, you're also cleaning it up as well. This is one of our riveted scythes. It's had little holes made in it in one of our other workshops upstairs. Right, so what's happened now? The scythe's been made, it's been sharpened, and it's ready to get checked. And that goes over to the blacking shop where most of the women work. If you'd like to follow me this way. We don't make the handles on site, the hafts. Best wood for that is hickory wood, I'm told. No, we concentrate on the sides. This little bit here is called the tang. It's quite important to get that right. So we've got some very experienced blacksmiths that work in the workshops down the far end there. And one of their jobs is to shape the tang so it's just right. Now then, you've got to be a bit careful when you're carrying these scythes around. We had a young man killed a few years ago. He fell downstairs with a whole load of these. But don't worry, we'll look after his widow. We're not monsters. Despite what the union men will tell you. Let's pop that down there for a minute. So this is where the women work. Packing lasses they're called, but they do a lot more than packing. For a start, they're looking at quality control. If we've got a young grinder who doesn't know what he's doing, sometimes he'll hold it too long on the grindstone and it can go blue. It's called bluing. So the lasses are looking out for that. And they're going to use some of the lead paint to paint over the blades to stop them rusting. Oh, just think, if someday somebody invents a type of steel that won't rust, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? They'd be world famous. Anyway, so here are some of the crown scythes hanging up to dry. I make them in all different lengths, you know. And some of the riveted scythes, the more affordable option there. There we go. Now when they've dried, they get put into bunches of 6 and wrapped up in this homemade rug, what the women make. And then boxed up and ready to go. So, there we are, you've got the whole story there. We've got another side up here, just to give you the idea of what it looks like. So how many gross shall I put you down for then? You are here to buy scythes together, yeah? That's my job, I'm a salesman mostly. So let me know how many you want and we can settle later. Anyway, go steady, I'll see you later. Take care.
Hi everyone, well I hope you enjoyed that virtual tour of Abbeydale Industrial Hamlet and gave you a taster of the site and what to expect when we reopen, which we are very much looking forward to reopening soon. Do keep an eye out on our Facebook page and our website for other events coming up. You can see those on the events tab or on the what's on tab. There's lots more things in store, talks, tours, workshops and more. So hope to see some of you there. Thank you for joining us today. Bye bye.